Good afternoon, everybody. We're glad to see all of you here. I think it's a very important topic that you appear to be interested in. So maybe a little background. We're going to invite Peter Kunith up that will explain some of the items that we have here to discuss. And Peter, are you ready?
That was quick.
I didn't want you to sit too long.
Thanks, John.
It's all yours.
John's my neighbor. He always gets me into trouble. My name's Peter Kunith. Sue and I have lived here in Palos Verdes for 39 years. It's been great 39 years. We enjoy the people. We've also, during all that time, we've contributed to the city. I was chairman of the Palos Verdes Concours. We raised a lot of money for the nonprofits. Did that for 9 years. I was even president of the Banning Museum because I think it's important for our kids to understand history. And Sue is currently with the Art Center, and she was a treasurer there for the Circle. And now she's on the nominating committee. So we're active in the community. We like the community. We like the people. But frankly, this tax really got our attention. And that's really why I'm up here. So Sue and I did a little research on this special tax that's to be voted on June 2nd. And I'd like to share with you 5 findings. First finding, this public safety parcel tax more than multiplies Measure E. In other words, we're going from 5.1 million to 16.25 million. That's a heck of an increase. On a personal note, we looked at our own tax sheets, and our taxes would increase from $1,000.15 for Measure E to $3,245, with an annual compounded increase of 3%. Again, this is triple the current tax rate. In the 10-year term of this tax, that would cost us $43,000. And what are we getting for it? Number 2, no detailed justification has been provided for this massive tax increase. I know we need to replace Measure E, which was the 5.1 million, and cover 3 million in the police services deficit. But what is the other $8 million in discretionary funding for? What are we spending the money on? It's not directed to pensions or to infrastructure. Point 3, the city has no formal spending plan. Therefore, we don't know what this tax is going to be spent on. It was confirmed in a video on February 24th, 26th, at the council meeting that they are working on a long-term range plan and developing an inventory of issues that need to be resolved. Now, I did look at, they do have the issues here, but it's a to-do list. It's not a plan. They call it Capital Improvement Program. It's a to-do list. So when will this be completed, this long-range plan, and how will it be communicated with us? At the same meeting, it was confirmed that the passage of this parcel tax would free up general funds for other spending. Really? Okay, so we're moving money around. What is the other spending? Why are we going to vote on something for which we don't have details? We want to understand the plan, we want to understand the details before approving this new tax. I think that's only rational. Point number 4, the city wants to pass this tax without knowing its content. And now I'm quoting from the city's website. At this stage, any discussion about specific safety issues would be speculative. It's too early and legally inappropriate to make spending commitments before voters have approved this measure. So we have to pass this tax in order to find out what's in it? Does that really make sense?
No.
5, this tax does not address the critical issues that we have in the city. We will probably need additional tax funding for the neglected infrastructure and the pension debt that we have. So there will be other taxes coming up, even if this 15 million is passed. Please join us in voting no on this June and defeat this unjustified tax. We would support efforts by the Council to conduct a due diligence needed to provide and justify tax that shows us where the funds will be directed, including infrastructure and pension debt. We have the time. Measure E will not go out of until June 30th, 2027. Let's get this right. Let's get a tax that includes all of our issues. And let's communicate with one another and understand what we are paying for. That's all we're asking. Thank you.
Hi. So we have some critical choices before us, and we have about how we're going to finance fixing the city's problems. So the council's done a pretty good job of letting us know in their 2 town halls we have issues. I completely agree with the issues they have brought up. In fact, we've spoken about them many times even before those town halls. So we have some choices before us. And what if we took a look at what those choices are and a good solution? So what is the solution to the city's structural deficit? We've had a structural deficit that dates back over 2 decades. This is our pension crisis. Over the last 14 years alone, our pensions have cost us $37 million, but we've only paid 17. Therefore, we have $20 million in debt. And we have to pay a very high interest rate every year and growing at 7%. So we need a solution for this because it has crowded out infrastructure. So we need a solution that council has struggled with. So they had the town halls and they brought up these problems. But they struggled to move forward with a solution and gave up. We don't want them to give up. We elected them to lead. This is what we want them to do. So another resident group came along and placed a ballot measure on the June ballot. Some of the residents complained that, hey, we weren't informed this more than triples the tax. And I get that. But now's the time we can talk about what we need. So we can leverage the efforts of both parties, council, ourselves, and the other resident group to come up with a solution that works for us. So the residents were asked, what is all this money for? What we see is the current Measure E plus the deficit is $5 million plus $2 million deficit is 7.1. But they're asking for 16.25, and there's no spending plan. So we don't know what all this extra discretionary funding is for. It also doesn't include any funds for infrastructure or pensions. So as the pension debt continues to rise and we neglect the infrastructure, things only get worse, meaning more fiscal instability. But this new tax doesn't direct any money to it. Now there's been promises, campaign promises, that discretionary funding will be used to fix some of the problems, but we don't know what that is. There's no standing problem and no campaign promise by anybody on council is binding. What we need is a tax that binds that commitment. The cities already admit on a video that the June tax omission of infrastructures and pensions will require another tax on top of it. So it's not just 16.25. Another one is planned. But they are right. We do have infrastructure problems, and I showed some of the pictures up there of City Hall. So what are the June tax concerns? Okay, some of what they do gets it right, but let's talk about the challenges and the gaps here. One is misalignment. It doesn't align to the residents' priorities. How do we know what the residents' priorities are? Well, you just look at their surveys and how they answered those city surveys. The city has the results of those surveys and what residents said they wanted. Here's what they said. Number 1 was fire safety. Number 2 was fiscal stability. And number 3 was police safety. And then 4th was funding neglected infrastructure. So the residents' concerns is that the continued unaddressed structural deficits caused by a pension crisis have resulted in these 2 problems, and yet there's no solution before us. That leaves unanswered questions. Because fundamentally, voters have the right to be informed. What is all this money for? And what is the spending plan? But those answers have not come from the city. So residents are uneasy with a blank check, a lack of accountability, and additional taxes later. So what is the cost? Well, it's the highest city parcel tax in the state of California. This will cost year one, the average household, $3,300. By the end of the term, it'll be up to $4,400 because it rises a compounded 3% annually. This means the average household will spend $33,000 over the term of the tax. And residents are uneasy when council admits another tax is needed now, funding infrastructure, without seeing the whole picture before they vote yes. And then pension costs are not addressed at all. So we keep running our city on debt. Well, you know we have to pay the bill sometime. So placing a resident's needs first is essential for stability. So what are the fiscal stability goals? There's 3. Eliminate the structural deficit. Start paying the full cost of our pensions and stop debt from rising. Pay off 90% of the pension debt so we can save over $1 million in interest costs a year. Fix neglected infrastructure. The city has a capital improvement plan, and that should be used. That's what we need to do. Fix the critical infrastructure. Not all of it is funded. Some of it's funded by the other county funds and other grants and such, but there's a gap. And then we need to start maintaining our infrastructure so we stop the bleeding and it doesn't get bad again. Then the third time is let's pay off these one-time costs using one-time taxes and then lower the tax after we've fixed our problems. These shouldn't be forever taxes that are spiked to fix one-time problems. What are the safety goals? The community wants to retain their local police force and secure the retirements of our police force's pensions. They deserve that, right? So far, we haven't done that. We need to maintain the 3-minute response time and 2 patrols 24/7. That's critical for safety. And we need to retain our fire department, the same services, but increase our brush clearance so it meets the county standards. We need accountability, no blank check. Funds need to be legally tied to fixing these problems. We need independent accounting of these goals and funding towards them, and the residents deserve to know every year, what is your progress towards those goals? Because you took a lot of taxes from me to do it. So I want to see, did you direct it properly? And where do we stand on those goals? Did you pay down that pension debt or not? How's it going? So let's compare financially what this means between Measure E today and the June tax and the Residents First proposal. So in terms of the annual cost, we talked about it. Today, the average household, depending on your square footage, pays $1,000 for Measure E. The June tax starts at $3,300, goes up to $4,400 by the end of the term of the tax. And the Residents First will vary from $1,800 to $2,400 because it's actually, those numbers are reversed, because what happens is it starts out higher, then we start saving money, right? We pay down the debt, we don't have to pay that interest anymore. We fix the infrastructure, we don't have to pay that cost anymore. So the tax actually goes down. Why? Because both of these taxes after 11 years have to be replaced. And the Residents First plan sets us up for success, not only by fixing the problems and being accountable, but 2, the replacement tax will be lower. Meanwhile, the June tax is for a forever increase because it doesn't set us up for success. And it doesn't consider lowering itself after it pays down these problems. So which one pays off pension debt? Well, only the Residents First does. And it saves $1 million plus a year in interest and prevents more debt from accruing. It funds infrastructure and starts maintaining it so it doesn't happen anymore and we stop the bleeding. As far as accountability, the Residents First requires oversight and legally directing the funds to our problems and reporting to show you how your money is being spent and whether it's achieving measurable goals. You deserve that, right? Some people do not have a lot of money in this community. We always act like it's an affluent community like everybody is. Not everybody is. And they're going to have to do without something to pay these taxes. So they're entitled to know what they're getting for it. So the Residents First plan solves problems with real safeguards. It reduces over time and it sets our city up for success and it reduces lower after it solves the problems. So what happens if the June tax fails? Well, we have time to get it right. Measure E doesn't expire to the end of 2027. That provides more elections and opportunities to pass a better tax, one that fits for our community. And we have two options after that. We can have a residents first option, a tax that's been described to you today, or the council can lead. A city-led tax will pass with 66% approval if aligned to the residents' priorities. The kind of things that you just saw today has overwhelming support in our community. Residents just want to know, where's my money being spent? Are you going to fix these problems? And then, hey, can we lower the tax after you fix the problems? So there's no need to rush. Measure E expires after 2027. We need a tax that solves our problem, prevents future stacked taxes, solves the structural deficit, causing instability while maintaining our essential services and keeping our police. And we have time to get it right. Oh, I want to show you one more thing over here. When you look at the cost here, going from Measure E, $9,000 for 9 years, to this one's going to cost you $43,000, you can see this is really, over time, a 5-fold increase in taxes. And that's important for you to realize how much this is. And it isn't just for this 11 years, it sets it up so those continual increases after this, because there is no plan to bring them down. It's just to increase the amount of taxation in our city. Okay, I am done, by the way. So Camille, you have a question?
I do. I remember, I think it was about 5 years ago when I saw you at a meeting here, and there was a representative from the Police Officers Union who was explaining how important it was that the city followed through on their commitment to pay the pension debt.
Yes.
And he was explaining that CalPERS had kind of set things up to get a 7 to 10% return, and it was nowhere near that return for the last 3 years. Are you telling us that nothing has been done to pay off that pension debt since 5 years ago?
It's what the police officer told you is absolutely true. So one of the reasons our pension debt goes up is because we underfund pension CalPERS every year, just so everybody gets a background of what she's saying. We give them money and they invest it in the market. We have no choice. We have to do this by law. And then they don't get the results they say they're going to get. So we paid on the assumption they were going to do better in the market than they do. We've been doing this for more than 30 years. And we continue to underpay, but we should be calculating in there the fact that they have this behavioral pattern. At some point, we got to catch on and do it right. So he was right, and yes, we need to pay much more than we're paying right now. And CalPERS provides inadequate returns, and therefore we're underfunding our police pensions. We shouldn't be doing that. Hold on just a sec. No. I'm sorry. One at a time. I will go to the next question next, okay? But I'm going to do one at a time. But let's speak to what happened, because your second part was, did the council do anything about that? One thing is I served with the council on an ad hoc committee for a year. And there was 4 residents and 4 staff members and 2 council members. We came up with a complete comprehensive solution to pay down the debt and stop debt from accruing. For some reason, the council would not move forward with it, even though we all supported it. I supported raising taxes to actually fix this problem, which would have put us in better shape than we are today. The second part of that would be, has council ever done anything else? They did make some discretionary contributions, about $2 million. Prior councils cumulatively have tossed in an extra $4 million to pay down the debt, but it didn't work because the debt rises so quickly. You have to make more than that. Our council in the last 8 years has contributed an extra $2 million, but because debt rises so quick, it didn't stop it from continuing to rise. Did that answer? Sure. Did you have a question, Sharon?
Say that that's not unique to our city. I mean, I don't want to give you the impression that our council are a bunch of idiots. Every city in the state is dealing with the PERS issue, and they're faced with the same problem. The projections never match what they say. So I just don't want to give anybody the impression somehow we're out of step with everybody else. We're all in the same boat. I understand that, but I still don't understand why we keep buying into the belief that 7% is reasonable. It's not.
No, I don't disagree with that, but I just didn't want to make it look like somehow our city's inept. Every city has dealt with it.
Hold it, and Margaret, you're next. So I wanted to comment on that. What I want to say is we don't jump off a cliff because everybody else is jumping off a cliff. We know the mistake we're making. We make it every single year. And it's been devastating for our city, and we need to do something about it. That's what leadership is for. Margaret, did you have a question?
Yes. So, how much is the debt related to pension in the numbers right now?
$20 million. And we have $20 million in pension debt. Let me put that in perspective, perhaps. Our budget is $25 million a year. So if your income's $25 million and you have debt that's almost equal to your annual income. And our debt payment this next year is 2.1. So that puts into perspective how big your debt payment is relative to your income. And that's just one payment. That's not even the full cost of pensions, because the full cost of pensions is every time we have a payroll, there's money that goes to CalPERS from the city for each payroll. Then we have the payment at the end of the year, which is the 2.1, and then there's any discretionary additional funds that go to it. So we pay a lot for pensions.
So the physical debt is 20 million.
Yes.
And it's growing because of additional discretionary expenses that are added.
Not quite, but I'll explain that. But go ahead.
But then it has 7% interest
It does.
rate on this 20 million.
It is. Yes, yes. So I'm just going to answer that question, and then right behind her, I'll call on you next, okay? The discretionary contributions that the council has made actually helps draw it down, okay? What's making the pension debt grow is because the amount of obligations each year we make is not equal to our contributions, even with the discretionary spending a year. And when they invest the money, they don't always get good results, at least not sufficient results to make the compulsory payments accurate. So those compulsory payments are too low, and we need to increase our discretionary funding each year at a level that prevents debt from growing. We can't continue to make the same mistake for 20 years and not notice.
My mother was in CalPERS, and that would be like over 60 years ago. And we knew then that they were very poor investors of money. They've been that way all these years. What law requires us to use CalPERS?
Oh, you're going to love this. CalPERS is the state of California. They write the laws. They even changed the terms of the contract. Now, we did sign, and I'll go to you next. We did, as a city, sign a contract with them in like the 1970s, based on promises that have changed, based on terms that have changed. Everything's been changing, and that's why so many governmental organizations are in the red. Doesn't make it right. We should be talking about this, because eventually, shit's gonna hit the fan when all this stuff is due, right? And we don't want that to be our city, right? And we don't want it to be our police officers. So, like one of the things that happened was they retroactively change benefits, but you never paid into it during that time. So as soon as you get that retroactive benefit, you never paid into it all those years at that rate, so immediately the debt goes up. That's one of the things that causes it. But that there was a time when it went from a 60% of their salary, they got it in retirement. Now it's up to 90%, plus other pensionable benefits. That jump is really what created a huge jump when that contribution. I'll go to you next. Hold on just a second. Does that help?
So the contract that the city signed is non-changeable?
They have a contract. They have two things. They have a contract with CalPERS, and they have a contract with the union as to which benefits are pensionable. So it's a combination of both. Well, actually, two unions. So we have the we have the police union, and then you have the miscellaneous union. But all the city employees, and I'll go to you next. Sorry, all the city employees are in the contract, are in CalPERS. That's what I meant to say. I'm going to go, and then you.
How much is the residents' first model allocate pensions per year starting at?
2.4
2.4
million a year.
Okay.
Okay.
So what people may not know, and I don't care how you vote, but I agree, everybody's spending their time here because they need to be educated. We don't have a choice with CalPERS. CalPERS underperforms the S&P 500. They've had horrific results. City Council is not responsible for that. You talk about taking the money and taking 2.4 million and saving yourself interest, but you got to remember, if you have the money to pay and we have it invested, we're earning 4 or 4.5%. So really, you're talking about the delta. So historically, if you have a mortgage and you're paying 7%, you've got money sitting aside, are you going to take all that money and pay down the mortgage? Probably not, because you want to have a safety net. CalPERS has 4 different plans. They have the safety plan, the non-safety plan, and stuff before 2013 and after 2013. The bottom line is they're supposed to earn 6.9%. That's their target rate of return. The last 2 years, which they haven't posted the new liability, they've earned 9.3 and 9.4% in the market. The bottom line is we do need to address these things. I think we can all agree we need to address replacement Measure E. We need to take care of the deficits. We need to fund pension. We need to take care of deferred infrastructure. And the bottom line is we've gone into our reserves. People have said Measure E wasn't enough.
I was the only one at the podium that night that said that.
So
Thank
if
you.
it wasn't enough back then, what was the right number? Because what you have is you have Prop 13, which requires a 2/3 majority. It itself did not pass by 2/3. It passed by 65%. So now you have a no vote equals 2 yes votes. So the question is, this place is special. We're all taking our most valuable asset, which is our time, to spend it here because we care about the city. Everybody should just be informed. I have put together a financial model, which I will present. I said it at City Council, and I was misquoted because I'm going to have it probably within the next 2 weeks. I'm waiting on one other thing. Stormwater study, Blake, you don't need that. I'll talk to you after this. Stormwater study just came out. We got $2.8 million or $2.6 million in immediate needs. We have money in the sewer plan that we can take out of there and take care of that. I met with the previous city manager and the professional engineer yesterday to triage everything on our over $30 million CIP budget. We just need to have the information and make an educated decision. The difference between the two taxes, you have to decide whether or not it makes sense. But
Okay.
do your homework.
So you can see that George is supporting the other tax, and yet George and, okay,
However
sorry.
you want. I'm saying just have the knowledge.
Sorry, I was interpreting the speech you gave during the council rally that you supported it.
It wasn't
It was a council meeting.
It wasn't a council rally, I will tell you this. What I said was, if I want to present a model, I want to hear how they respond to the model, not only their support, I want a commitment.
Thank
How
you.
it's gonna go.
So I agree with, we don't. And you know what I really love about what you're saying is you're saying, I want to listen and I want input. And I think that that's fundamentally what we need to do. Because if we all work together, and that's what we should be doing, all working together, we got to work on some of the details behind this to know the numbers work. And that needs to happen. So George and I are agreeing, we probably disagree maybe on the numbers, but he just said there's $30 million in the capital improvement plan. He's absolutely right. If you look at the capital improvement plan, it lists over 30 million, but 30 million is unfunded of that. So you've got other funds coming in from the county, different measures that the city gets in, and those are funded. But there's one part, there's one page that says, we've got 30 million unfunded. Question?
I'm just curious, the pension cost, you said went from replacing 60 to 90% of the salary.
Yes.
Clearly that is unsustainable position we're in. Can anything be done to renegotiate these contracts? Because they're clearly unsustainable and I would argue out of line with the rest of the nation.
So the answer to your question is, can we renegotiate? The council, prior council, signed a contract with the police union to give this to them. I believe they would walk off if you tried to take it away. So can it be? I think that's what will happen.
Well, the answer, I mean, it's unsustainable, so, to the limit, you're talking bankruptcy and it goes away anyway. I would say a reasonable approach would be try and renegotiate those contracts because they're not sustainable.
I understand what you're saying.
No one's made that.
Now you see the pickle. This is going to be rising costs for the city, but at the very least, we should be honest about the size of our problem so people understand what it is.
The city will break. It's not sustainable. Bankrupt.
It has cost $37 million in the last 14 years. I think people have the right to know that and what that means for the city when you look at an income of $25 million a year. So yeah, and I'm not here to decide. I think that people just need to know the facts and decide what they are. Just like George said, let's put the facts on the table so people can make some decisions. Question?
Is your residents first plan also a parcel tax?
Yes.
So the one thing I like about parcel taxes is that 100% of that parcel tax money goes back to the city,
Yes.
right? So if you go for a Prop 13 tax, right?
Uh-huh.
Those tax dollars that we pay,
Prop 13
most
tax.
of it goes to the state,
Prop
and a
13.
little bit comes back to us, like some small percentage.
I think you're,
Picking up with the number.
okay, you're right, and I'm gonna tweak it just a little bit, okay? So you're right that if the city passes a parcel tax, if the other residents group passes a parcel tax, if the residents first parcel tax passes, all three of them 100% come to the city. You're absolutely right. Now, if you talk about a property tax, like what you pay, right? Your property tax bill also lists the all the various parcel tax that you guys have approved, like Measure SOS that people just approved. So your parcel tax your property tax has the property tax, and then it has all the parcel tax below it that go to the school, the water district, all those things. To your point, 100% stays here, yes. The property taxes, by the way, go to the county. And then the county reapportions that back in various amounts to the cities. For instance, we get 11.3 on the dollar, and other PV cities get 6.3, or 6.2, but they get their fire included in it. We don't. We pay the contract separately. In the end, it's a net loss to us of about $1.5 million. George? Next.
Just so everybody knows, they did a formula determining how much each city would get. We get 11 cents. The average city gets 15 cents minus fire if they get it. San Marino gets 24 cents for every dollar. So we actually are below the average because of Prop 13. That is part of our problem.
That is part of the problem. And I want to bring up the flip side of this. The other half is, are we talking about income or are we talking about spending? If you look at the other PV cities, they spend substantially less per household for the same city services we get. Okay, but why? Why does it cost more for us to run a city than them, just a minute, for them to run a city than for us to run a city? Now, even though we pay more per household to provide the same services, first of all, why is that? And why do we need to take that and increase it substantially? Where's all that money going? And let us decide as residents, is it essential? Is it justified? And what are you planning on doing with that money? That's what an informed voter deserves. Okay, I'm going to go to you next, and Derek.
Hi, Deb. I'd like to just make a very brief comment on Derek Lazard.
Do you have a question, Derek, or is this a speech?
Come on, Dad. Jesus.
All right.
This is not about your, okay?
I think from my perspective, I've been on council for 1 year, and I think that part of the problem in PV estates is we are truly a unique city. And one of the things that I've been trying to get out there, it's on this piece of paper that I've handed out, is almost every other city in the state of California has a commercial, industrial, and/or hotel tax base. They raise millions of dollars from hotel, resort, residency taxes, occupancy taxes, from industrial bases, et cetera, et cetera. PVE is one of a handful of cities in the state that does not have that tax base. The other problem that PV has that makes us even more unique is that other cities like ours, like Rolling Hills, like Hidden Hills, like Rancho Santa Fe, have HOAs that collect thousands of dollars from their residents every year, and they spend it on road maintenance. They do the road maintenance. The HOAs do the road maintenance. PBE was set up 100 years ago as an HOA city. And in 1940, the 28% open space was sold to the city for $10. The HOA sold it to the city for $10. It's an amazing asset. We all enjoy it. We all enjoy the trails. We all enjoy the bluff tops. It is also a liability. I think part of the problem in this city is that for over 10 years, residents and groups and the city council have been pointing fingers at each other. And the real truth is we have a structural problem that we have never addressed. We've had a lot of fun pointing fingers. Des and I have certainly gotten into it many, many times. I think we should stop pointing fingers and start being realistic about how much it costs to run a city like this without HOA fees, without a commercial tax base. That's what we have to be real about. It is a lot of money. It's more than any of us want to pay. But if we want PBE to stay PBE, we have to get real.
Ken?
Who of us, we're all successful, we're sitting in this room. Why would any of us write a blank check? Why not break it down and stop all the questioning? If you just are, it's all about transparency. I don't know you, I know what your position. Be transparent, put it on a piece of paper. What are you going to give us for the money?
I've got a QR code right here. And you know, this is where Des and I disagree, most fundamentally. Because cities that have sales taxes, that have hotel taxes, don't have to justify 100% of their spending every single time they start a new project to repair a sewer line.
Well, okay, but we're hearing stories about new buildings, all that.
Wait a minute, let's address the question that Ken asked.
It's a fair question.
But let's focus on that.
Here's the plan. Go to the QR code. There's a spreadsheet.
Why don't you tell us where the plan
There's a
is?
10-year model on the spreadsheet. There's a list of capital improvement plans. And look, it is, someone said, the first gentleman who spoke said that we don't have a plan.
Well, the city says you don't have the plans on the website.
Yeah, a certain of my council friends.
No, it's on the website.
Things that I think is boneheaded, okay? I don't know why they say things like that. It's very misleading. The city has a capital improvement plan. It shows, I think we heard the number, about $30 million of unfunded liabilities.
Yes.
If you go back and look at the council agendas, we have much more detailed breakdowns of what those things actually are. You know, some of them have gone to the point where we have design studies, we know more or less exactly what we have.
But let's go back to the question. Let's go to the question. Let's go to the question that Ken asked.
With thousands of pages.
But let's go back to the question.
What is the problem with the resident first plan? What do you see as the
I don't
problem?
think it's enough money, realistically. It probably, the resident first plan is probably enough to pay for the police and draw down the pensions as they have accounted for. It does not do anything to address the infrastructure problems that we have. And I have to say, I was shocked when I went into City Hall when it was raining about 4 months, this was the first rain. It is raining inside of the parking garage in City Hall.
Let's go back fundamentally to what he's asking though. And you should have put a tarp up and stopped the damage, but putting that aside, you don't know. On what basis do you say that the residents' first plan doesn't include infrastructure funding? What is the basis for that statement?
If you look at the
So what are the allocations?
Website,
So what
actually 17.5 million, and even that starts to dip into reserve funds at the end of a 10-year span.
So what is the allocation?
12 million is clearly not enough. 16 is probably barely enough to address pensions.
So what is the allocation? So this is where the number, and I don't want to go too detailed. Let's go back to the fundamental question of what is coming back and forth between Derek and I. And that is, he's saying this plan does not have enough, but he doesn't know how much is allocated.
Nobody is, except you.
And you can't tell us, and you haven't told us how much you allocate, and you know that you endorse a tax that doesn't include a penny for it.
And I'll tell you,
All just providing a campaign. No, let me finish. I didn't finish. Here's the problem.
Has to specify what it's going to be used for.
Yeah, and this tax, your tax.
Police, and then they use, and it pays for police, legally binding, and then you take some of the money that it frees up and you pay for other things. Their tax pays for police and fire, and then you take the money and then you pay for all the other stuff that you have. That's just how special taxes work.
I know this. That wasn't the question. Derek, we need a special tax that directs money to pensions and infrastructure.
That's what you want that is.
That's what we need to solve. Okay, let's come back.
All
Let's
right,
come
wait,
back.
one at a time, please. Otherwise, it's chaos.
Intervene for 1 second.
Let's hold on a second.
Hold on,
George,
hold on a second,
George,
hold
hold
on.
on a second. Let's just finish out with Ken's question. So Ken has asked, and we haven't gone back to it, why we don't have the transparency. Why doesn't the June tax provide any money towards pensions or liability when we know those are issues? There is nothing in the tax that directs it there. There is no speech by any council member that's binding. And that's important to know. But Derek, you gotta let me finish. Derek, you gotta let me finish.
Why not do that? Why not calm
right.
the waters by being specific? If my roof is leaking, I'm gonna fix the roof. The first thing, I'm not gonna let it continue to leak. None of us here would. So calm the water. We have watched nationally. We've all seen those. We've seen billions and billions of dollars. Excuse me. We've seen billions and billions of dollars disappear into the Ethernet. We don't know where it all goes, but we know, you look at Minnesota, we know fraud has been rampant. So, excuse me, it doesn't matter that it's not PVE. What we all want is transparency and a commitment that the dollars that we're paying
Solve
are used
problems.
as they should be paid. We're not accusing you of anything. What we're saying is that nationally, there is a picture where billions, tens of hundreds of billions, trillions of dollars has been wasted. We all have our own form of PTSD. You should understand that as a leader. You should calm the waters by being transparent so that none of these questions exist. Calm the waters, codify what you want to use the money
There you go.
for.
You have to codify it. Any campaign
There's
speech,
no risk to you that
any
way.
campaign speech is not binding. People need, hold on a second, George. What people are asking for is that we actually have the text.
Okay,
Let's-
okay, wait a minute. Let's one at a time. Otherwise, it's just chaos.
Okay, so
please.
let's close these two things. What Ken is saying is that we need to codify this in the tax so we know the money goes towards there. No speech by anybody in this city is binding. What's binding is what you approve in that text. And if these are our problems, there should be no reluctance to codify fixing those problems and directing our money towards those problems. So that is where every time Ken gets resistance to codifying it, he doesn't understand why there's resistance. The second point that you made, Derek, is that all the other cities get sales tax, all the other cities get HOA money. No, this is about spending. Today, our city spends more than any other city in PV for each household. But what are we getting for that extra money? And why do you need to raise that substantially more? And what do we get for that? And those are the questions that people are trying to get answers to. Okay, but hold on a second. I had three others that came up before you, so you'll be number 4. I'm going to go next to you, George. George, I know.
My name's Andre.
Okay, Andre.
I was just going to say, that isn't the reason we spend more per household because of those things that Derek said? We don't
Peter?
have any business here in the city.
No, that's an income statement.
But that
No,
expenses and income balance each other, right?
no,
No, listen. So if we're getting revenue from businesses that are generating taxes, that's going into what the city can spend,
right,
correct?
right.
If that's not coming in, who makes up for that? The residents.
Right. And so today,
We're spending more.
no, you're talking about what we're doing to fix a revenue gap. I'm talking about the fact we already spend, the city, more per household than any other city in PV. What are we getting for that extra money that's being spent? There you go. And I want to get back to that because that's an excellent point. But hold on, okay? Hold on a second. Yes, you have. I'm sorry. Hold on a second. We're going to.
I think one of the things that we need to do is understand the history. It is true, we spend more for fire than any other city on the hill. That has to do with history. When the county formed its department, its fire department, it allowed people in LA County, we were already incorporated. It allowed the unincorporated cities in LA County to join the fire department, and they are grandfathered at a very, very low rate. So Rolling Hills, our PV pays less than we do.
Okay, so let's give them actual numbers, but let's give them actual numbers. So what happens is that they get more money for their, we get more money in our coffers for our property tax. For every property tax dollar you send to the county, we get 11.3% back. So we get more there. But we get less in the fact that their fire services are included even though they only get 6%. So what is, hold on just a second. You have to
Why does it cost us more?
But that's $1.5 million.
And I was answering part of that question.
Yep, you're right. And that accounts for $1.5 million of why it costs more. And keep in mind, we're already paying 5.1 more in parcel taxes in the other cities. So the question is, what are we getting for that difference? I'm going to go to your point in a second.
On 30% of
What?
open space with
no money
weeds
to
and
pay
trees.
for it.
And these are
Our own police.
realities.
So we have,
It is more
Carbon
expensive.
copy
It is more
of every.
expensive.
there you go.
That's
There you go.
right.
There you go.
It is the most expensive city.
But I want to get back to, and I want to,
Because we have
but
our own police
I'm waiting over
department.
here.
We pay more for fire, and we pay more for all of the 28% of the acreage.
And this is what we have
It costs
to,
more to live in PDE.
that's what we got to talk about. Hold on a second. Before George, you had a comment.
I want to ask, over half of our budget goes to fire and police, about 16 million.
Yeah.
So this new tax specifies that it goes 100% to fire and police. So
Yep.
we're paying for that.
Yep.
And can't we do all of the other things we talked about out of the funding that's already coming into the city?
What are all the other things we talked about? Because we're still waiting to find out what it's going to,
Pension debt,
Nope.
all those things. You're
Nope.
saying, how is it Kitty, maybe you can speak to that. Why can't we?
hold on a second. I'm going to answer, hold on a second. She's not the treasurer. Hold on a second.
Was, and I know where every debit and every credit goes. My history is 25 years as CFO of public companies, privately held companies. The issue is we can pay for the rest. I think 16.2 is actually a little small. We forget about inflation. You know, 3% used to be normal. Well, it hasn't been normal. It's going to cost more and unknowns. The problem with 100-year-old infrastructure, it's like your house. You don't know when the next pipe is going to burst if your house is 50 years old or 100 years old. And that's kind of what we're facing. We're trying to get, or the city is trying to get ahead of it by doing these capital studies and trying to figure out, okay, what is the status of the sewer, the infrastructure. But you can't always predict.
So that brings us back to the fundamental question that Ken asked. Why is this discretionary funding, because not a penny of this extra money is being directed towards fixing our problems? Why aren't we codifying it in the tax, showing the residents the due diligence of the numbers it should be shown to convince us, number one, it's justified, and number two, you're not going to need another one. Number three, are you going to, but this needs to happen. And that's the problem. What Ken is asking for, and I'm going to say it again, what Ken is asking for is why aren't we codifying how the money will be directed to make sure it gets directed towards those things? What are the numbers you need? Justify it to us. Tell us it's necessary, because this is the biggest parcel tax in the state of California. We deserve this conversation.
Well, there is the first forecast this city did was when I was on the Finance Advisory Committee, and we had just started to bring some new people into the city who understood business and finance. That was the first one. They have kept it up, and if you go on the city's website, there is a forecast for the next 10 plus years. And as somebody mentioned earlier, they thought we needed 17 million a year plus a COLA. Some of it is I can tell you something about every forecast. It's wrong.
So let's go back to the fundamental question, and that is why, number one, why aren't the residents being told what is all this money for? Where is the breakdown? It is not published anywhere, and the council says on the website it's inappropriate to make those decisions at this time or discuss it. Number two, why is this discretionary funding and not codified so we know that the money is being directed to fixing our problems? And number three, why aren't we having, as part of the tax, a requirement that says, here's our goals. Every single year, we are going to measure progress towards those goals. Did we pay down the pensions? Did we save over $1 million a year? Did we fix the unfunded capital improvements? Where do we stand on that? What is our progress towards those goals? And that's what residents deserve, because then it's convincing. And all the discretionary funding is not. Next. Sorry.
Am I next?
George, hold on a second, because you've had a lot. Let's give some other people a chance.
I just heard trust our city council, we elected them. I don't know anybody in this room that would write a blank check and trust the contractor that's building your home. I mean, we've gone back and forth with contractors over and over again, because if it's not in writing, then there are no guarantees. So we're looking for transparency. We're calm the waters, solve the problem by codifying it. You are going to direct funds this way, and this way. Then we won't have problems.
Dennis, can I make one quick comment? We had 2 town halls, as she noted. We had several additional budget meetings, I think at least 6. Then there were a good number of people to 2 town halls. Almost nobody showed up.
Okay, well, we did, and there were no answers.
The level of engagement.
Let's not blame the residents about engagement. They elected you to do the budget.
Extremely low. We have published PowerPoints and Excel documents, and we put it on the website, and we mailed summarized versions of it.
But that is not what, you're missing the point Ken is trying to make.
We have really tried to get information into the hands of the voter.
That's not what he's asking for.
I'm happy to see the people here, but up to this point, the engagement level is minimal.
Okay, I think that we had really good turnouts for those 2 town halls, but fundamentally, you're still not answering Ken's question.
Can I answer the question?
And that is, why aren't you codifying? We're asking an elected official, why aren't you codifying
I
it?
will try to answer his question. So parcel taxes are supposed to specify exactly what the money is going to be used for. They're special tax. They're called special taxes, right? So the problem is that it's really hard to project 10 years out exactly when and where we are going to spend money, because we have things happen, like a $600,000 repair that we're currently doing on PV Drive.
But he's asking you why you're not codifying it.
We had a $300,000 repair earlier this year when a storm drain.
You have to codify where the tax
And
goes.
literally took out the back of somebody's yard because the storm drain was installed in the 1950s.
Okay, so Derek, you're going off topic. He wants to know why you're not codifying it.
I'm explaining it.
No.
It's not possible.
You can codify an allocation of the tax.
And say, this is exactly how much we're going to spend on storm drains this year. Other cities don't do it that way. It's not done that way in other cities because, again, they have sales tax. They have flexibility.
They have more money, but
Coming in that gives them a buffer. PVE is really, really unusual.
okay, so what I'm hearing is
Have any buffer.
what I'm hearing is you're against codifying it, and what I'm hearing, and I agree with, is we need to codify it. Now let me explain a way to do that makes sense. Jeff, hold on just a second. What we can do is we recognize, here's our problems. Here's the size of our problems and the amount associated with it. Here's a tax for a period of time, and here's the allocations towards that. It doesn't say anything micromanages council to say, hey, you got to fix that infrastructure problem before that one. Not at all. It refers to the council's own CIP plan, capital plan. And then it provides an allocation of the tax towards it. That codifies it so that we can measure, hey, after year 1, how much of the infrastructure problems, repairs, have we funded? How much of the debt reduction have we funded? How much is left? How are we doing on our stated goals, and are we getting closer to those? Because that's really what we all want to know. We want to know for sure that money's being directed. Jeff?
I was going to say, Derek, I've worked in government my entire life, for city government, not this city, obviously. I've never seen cities consistently squander money, mismanagement, hide the ball what they're doing. And all we're asking is very simple. Like you say, just transparency. You guys want us to write a check, we just want to know what that check is going to be paid for.
And you're saying it's worse here at PB?
I'm not saying it's worse, but I'm saying I've never trusted government based on what I've seen with my own eyes. Don't trust them. They'll say something, they'll do something else. Look at the whole LA City homeless crisis. That's the biggest corruption racket I've ever seen in my entire life. That's the city I work for, okay? Here's the train, we can go on and on. Now, I'm not saying you're not, I don't know you. But the bottom line is, there's a lot of skepticism here. There's a lot of money you're asking for. I'm sure none of us here have any problem paying for it as long as we know where it's going.
You need to let more business people into government to help run it. The problem is it's purely people who have government experience where they don't
She's
have.
first, and I'll go to you. So, do you have a question?
Nominate Jeff.
There you go. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Des, I totally agree with everything you said here, and I think perhaps the bottom line, and maybe Derek, to explain something to you, you're relatively new to the council,
Yep, 1 year.
but residents in this city have long memories. And based on the actions, the very cavalier actions of some of your current council members, I don't trust the council to give an open checkbook on a much smaller amount of money, much less the amount we're talking about. Especially when I consider the consequences to some of the elderly residents, long-term residents of this city who contributed their share for many years and are now going to be pressed for money because of it. So the bottom line is, when we have the same members on the council who approved the boondoggle of the traffic circle that cost us over $600,000, and another 300 and change for the tree counting, that put $1 million out of our pockets in a 1-year period, and then that number was used to pump up the numbers in the dog and pony shows that the council used to project out why they needed all this money going forward. I don't trust you guys. And I don't want to write a blank checkbook. I need accountability.
Just said, and I'll say this, I ran for council out of frustration. And the biggest frustration that I had was I wanted the council to put a parcel tax on. I don't disagree about everything. I wanted the council to put a parcel tax on. I was a planning commissioner, so I knew most of the council members pretty well. And I said, guys, you need to put a parcel tax on the ballot or I'm going to run. And they failed to do it. And so I ran. I was elected. And I am also frustrated by some of the same things that you have mentioned. And I won't stand here and say that the city of PBE is perfect, okay? But what has become very clear to me, and I'll actually blame some of my colleagues for this. I'll say that out loud. I've said it to their face too, okay? We haven't done a good job of explaining as a council, as a city. For most of the last 10 years, it's about how long I've been paying attention, probably goes back 20 years, we have not explained what it costs to run this city. We haven't explained to the residents that we have sewers that were installed in the 1920s. We haven't explained to residents that we have storm drains that were installed in the 1950s. We haven't explained to residents.
Okay, so the summarized version is residents are asking for the justification.
Hundreds of acres costs a lot of money.
Right, but let's see the justification.
All of that.
But let's see the justification.
We find ourselves in a situation where we are arguing about this because there's a real cost to run the city. Measure E 10 years ago failed to account for that. It was sort of a Band-Aid. It was sort of slapped on after Measure D failed. They quickly scrambled and passed Measure E. It wasn't enough, but it sort of lulled everybody into thinking it was fine because it did cover the operational component of the city. It didn't address any of those other infrastructure.
But summarize here, Derek.
And so here we are. And the problem, though, is that in those intervening 10 years, the infrastructure that was bad 10 years ago is critical now. So my concern, and part of the reason I'm here today and I'm speaking the way that I'm speaking, is I don't think we have another 3 or 4 years to quarrel about this. I'm not even sure that, you know, part of my concern is that we're going to pass Des's proposal at 12 million or whatever exactly her numbers work out to, and we're going to feel fine again. And we'll kind of sort of be fine for a few years. But then we're going to have all these other things that we really should have taken care of, really come and bite us.
But that's not what she's asking about. That's not what she's asking about. She's asking, number one, why don't you provide a tax that binds the spending? And number two, show us your spending plan. Those are the two fundamental questions you keep hearing. And no, Derek, you're telling some very long stories, but that is not a spending plan because the council has not voted on a spending plan. So nothing you say is binding. Residents want to know what is the binding spending plan that they're signing up for. The two things you're hearing, Derek. And Derek, before you tell another story, these are the two fundamental things.
And by codifying.
Yes, codify it. Codify it and provide them a justification and a spending plan that's justified. That's what people are asking you for.
We're adults here. We're all successful adults living in TV.
Let's talk about this real quick.
Hold on a second, George. Then the second thing, George has spoken quite a bit during the meeting. We'll get to him. But other people need to speak as well. So what we need, and you know what? We have two other people. So one of the things we have to realize is why does it cost so much more in our city per household than the other cities? That's not an income problem. That's a spending thing. So help us understand, are we running our city effectively? Why does it cost so much more? With this tax, it'll be over $8,000 a year per household at the beginning. Meanwhile, it's a third of that for RPV. Why? Why does it cost less per household in RPV than it does for ours?
Can I answer that question?
Well, but these are the questions.
She doesn't want it answered.
Okay, George, answer that question.
First of all, I'd like to say that we all have the same goal. We should be respectful. We should talk to each other. We should work together instead of trying to create this environment of mistrust and this, that, and the other thing. Like, we all want the same thing. What is the number? She's saying it's a 240% increase, or 100 and whatever percent increase. I'd like to see a plan. The reason that I am putting together a plan, and the reason my plan is not done, is A, I need to know what the pension number is. So I talked to Michael Pence. Michael Pence at the March 24th meeting is going to have somebody from Go Invest, who is the pension software company, to give us exactly what that number is. You're saying it's 2.4. I want to hear from the people who actually run the program.
For what? What's the number you're going to ask?
For what do we need to do per year over the period of this tax to pay down 90% of the pension liability? That's what I want to know. So I work with the city council member. It's on the agenda. That's great. The other piece that I don't know, we, on March 30th, will get the number from our fire contract on what that increase is going to be. I need to put that number in there. People talk about they're going to build a new fire station. That's not true because we're under contract with LA County Fire. They're responsible for 80% of that cost. Do you think LA County is going to go ahead and they're like in a hurry to write a check with everything that?
Hold on a second. The city has already written to LA County asking them to do it.
You know, there's a report that LA County put out that we're one of the top 10 fire departments.
But we need to tell people that the city council's pursuing this. The letter shows that they're pursuing it.
It's a conversation, but we don't control the narrative. You see, that's the
But they control the communication.
And all of a sudden,
Residents have a right.
Can I finish?
No, residents have a right, George, to know that the city's pursuing it.
If somebody sends a letter, it doesn't mean that's what they're doing.
It means that's what they want to pursue.
They have to pay for 80% of it. What do you, it's called the tail wagging the dog. So you don't wait and do things linearly. You do everything at the same time. That is a conversation that will take years. City Hall, I sat down with people who previous city managers and triaging all of our CIP, because we can't pay for it all at once. So what do? Okay, we're gonna take care of some of the big stormwater issues that are out there. We're gonna take care of retrofitting the City Hall and buildings. We have water intrusion, Malaga, Cove. Those are things we need to do. We need to have a responsible conversation, to throw the city council under the bus and hang their hats on a tree inventory or hang their hat on this. I mean, does everything work out that we do in our life? No. I can tell you stories.
So George, let's talk about solutions, because this is a really long narrative, and you're taking us off topic. This is this is a Q&A session. Do you want to deliver the council spending plan? What is your position with the city? You're telling us you're doing a spending plan for the city, but nobody here knows what your position is. Why don't you tell us?
My position is everybody vote how you want to vote, but have all the information.
What is your position with the city? Why are you allowed to look at pension information with the city council?
You got the best email from Michael Pence yourself, didn't you?
Oh, I've used GovInvest personally.
But you talked to Michael when he sent you the stuff, right?
No, he did not provide me the input variables that went into. Yes.
He told me he emailed you some stuff. It doesn't really matter.
So once again, what is your position with the city?
I don't have a position with this.
So what is your spending plan relative to the commitments from the city council?
I'm going to put together the model and I'm going to present it.
Whose model is it?
It's my model.
Does it represent the city?
It has nothing to do with
The residents are asking for what the city's spending plan is and to codify the tax.
I'm going to say, look, this is what I think. Are you behind it or not? I want to hear you commit to it. If they don't, then I'm not going to support it.
Okay.
It's that simple.
Thank you. I think that tells us exactly what, and I love that you're working on this, George.
Well, you don't want to talk.
George, you've spoken more than anybody. Blake?
I got a couple questions, and the first actually is to George. I just connected the dots, George. Are you the person who is part of the Citizens Initiative?
I have worked with those people, yes, on the tool.
Okay. So you're
I'm independent, so I put together all the financial information. I meet with the people.
Are you part of the Citizen Initiative group that is proposing this tax, pushing this tax on us?
I work with them, so you can say yes or no, but
Okay.
like I said, I want people to vote how they
Well,
want.
I understand. I agree with you. And then what is your involvement with the golf club?
The golf club, I was president there. I've been on the board twice, and as anybody may know, on Measure E, original Measure E, there was language in there that I made sure was changed so that the concessionaires were also, it's called a possessory interest.
Yeah.
That language was changed to make sure all the concessions got hit with this tax.
I'm aware of that. And then are you currently on the board now for the golf club? You're not. Okay.
I'm not involved in anything.
So,
okay, I would just wanted to know. Thank you for that.
So quick comment, Blake, and then I'll let you continue.
Go ahead.
The golf club board has endorsed the tax, but they didn't receive a single vote from the members. So they are speaking for all their members, but never took a survey or poll, which was really inappropriate for 5 residents of this community to do.
Right here, I asked them, I've never heard that, and I'm a member. So what was the question?
There was no survey taken before the golf club endorsed the tax.
I don't believe the golf course is formally endorsed. We're all citizen residents.
So the golf club did not?
The golf club has not taken a position.
Okay, so I want you to know, I have a document, I haven't read it in detail. A member sent it to me and said, I can't believe they did this. So I apologize for that misunderstanding, but I'm not the only one with that misunderstanding based on something that was said.
You send that to David Stockton, the general manager.
I will.
And that's exactly what happens is things get out there and they put it out there in the ether, it creates a life of its own. They can say, hey, George and Andre are gay. We're not. I saw them sitting right next to each other at this meeting.
So, and I want to make sure he's finished. I'll go to you next, then I'll come back to you. Then point corrected. And I'm going to share that with David Stockton to tell. I want you guys to know what's out there because you should, I believe, take a survey from your own membership. And I understand that wasn't accurate, that I've been told.
I want to be crystal clear. The golf club is not supporting this measure. There are the residents that are supporting this measure.
Ah. That's a fine point. And let me say one thing as a resident before we go back to Blake. I don't like seeing my concessions politicized because there can be a favor thing there. I want them to be politically neutral at all times. And the fact that you just said that earns a tremendous amount of respect from me. Thank you. Blake, did you finish? I'll go to you next.
If we, let's assume we give city council latitude to implement this tax, and then after, let's say, 2 years, we're not impressed, we think they're blowing all our money. Can we at that point just pass another parcel tax?
Yes. In fact, we don't even have to wait 2 years.
Or after a year, so maybe that, isn't that fail-safe?
Well, you've got to have somebody with the gumption to do it. Now remember, this one is being funded, what, they've got $60,000? 75% of it is from the real estate community. So you've got to have somebody who's willing to pump money into it. So it isn't always easy. So let me just say that I helped collect the signatures and went through this for the Land Preservation Act. Yeah, it's a lot of work.
And a lot of real estate money helped you out, didn't it?
No, it did not.
Oh, I know some that did.
Nope. If you look at what happened, there was a letter sent by Art Fine to everybody in the community, it was mailed to them, asking them for personal donations. And then a person that started the donation, who does not sell real estate, was the one that started. So it was all grassroots, and the difference of the money that wasn't spent during the process, because we used all volunteers, was personally refunded with a handwritten note to each person.
This is exactly what I'm talking about. The insinuation that some real estate group is behind the scenes, you put that out there and it creates life of its own. It's an 87 or however many years old Stan Moore is.
Yeah,
So-
he's up there.
So let's be clear. If for any tax measure that goes on, or any ballot measure, Land Preservation Act, the tax for June, you can look and see on the city's donors who they are. So you can see what they've done. And you're next, Ken. Go ahead.
Hi. This gentleman articulated very well, and my question is to the council member. What is the objection of not quantifying it for us, giving us good information, just like the one that you're presenting to us now with the QR code, so all of us can read and write and object and say, you know what, you guys are doing a fantastic job, we're all for it, we'll go and vote with our feet.
I'm going to boil this down very simple and very easy for you to understand. If you vote no in June, the city council is going to have to go back to the drawing board and decide where the money's going to go.
And
that's the bottom line.
They're going to have to come to you to get 66%, so it will be codified. It will have the detail, and that's what we need. Go ahead, Ken.
Well, I'll try to answer his question. So look, there is probably a scenario, a hypothetical scenario, where if we rewound 4 years, and we had 4 more years of runway, and we really looked at every possible expenditure category, and then we brought a few different parcel taxes to the city. Because remember, we used to also have utility taxes that were allocated to sewers. I mean, the city used to fund itself differently. And then when Measure D failed, again, everybody scrambled, they threw Measure E on, they said, what can we pass that just is kind of a blank check that makes things simple, and it was Measure E that funded the police department. Sort of, barely, kind of, right? And didn't account for all this other stuff. If we could rewind 4 years and say, okay, exactly how much do we need to fix the sewers, and how much do we need to fix City Hall, and how much do we need to fix all these other things, and what is a realistic, staffing level for the police force, and a whole bunch of other things. If we could do that, there is probably a path where we could satisfy him and satisfy you, and pass a few different parcel taxes with special allocations where we do specify all of that. That is a multi-year plan that our city does not have time for now today.
But that is not the only alternative that the council has. They can pass one, and they have time to do it, that includes all of them in it. It is not the only option that's open to council.
The real risk, though, Des, is this. This is the nightmare scenario as far as I'm concerned. If this thing fails, then we the council, You're right, we do have to then scramble and pass another kind of.
I didn't say scramble, you have time.
We have a few
Heck, you guys have had 8 years.
We have a few months.
I helped Michael Kemps get elected by helping him with his flyers to show these are the financial problems we have to solve. I've been trying to do this for you for 8 years.
This is what we would actually have to do. This is how it would play out. We would have until November, so between June and November, if there's not a lot of time.
He can do it for March as well.
It's 2 weeks, by the way, is technically the amount of time
You can do it in March as well.
to pass it into November. We would have to put something on that we were extremely confident could pass at 66%, and we would have to make it small enough to ensure that would happen so we don't lose and dip about $10 to $12 million into our reserve, which is barely $20 million. It would put the city at grave risk if we were to go for the full amount at 66%, the 16 million. You can't get 66% of the world agree on anything these days. And so the problem is, what we would actually do is we would ask for far less than we actually need. And we would just kick the can down the road another 10 years.
I don't think so. Let me tell you why. Because what would happen is you can do the same thing for March, and it will hit the tax rolls at the same date as if you passed it in November. So you have till March. If you feel that you haven't done the due diligence in all the time that you guys have been in council, then, and you need more time, then you can pass something and saying, we're just doing this and this. Derek, let me finish. So what happens is that you can, we're just talking over each other, Derek. Derek, we're talking over each other. So what happens is that you have the opportunity to say, we haven't had the time to do due diligence, if that's the way you feel, even though I think you should be able to. So if you don't have the time to do the due diligence right now to get it ready for November, what you can do is then get it ready for March, because it will hit the tax rolls at the same date than it's.
Remember, it doesn't change the problem, which is how do we explain to a community where we can't even get people to show up to our meetings?
They were overwhelmingly present for your 2 town halls. Derek, let me answer the question. What you need to do is come up with a solution, codify it, justify it, show us where it's going. You can start that right now. If George can do it, and he doesn't even work for the city, you can do it because hold on, let me finish. And then you can get that ready right now and start explaining Plan B. If you feel that no matter what, you cannot get that much, and it's justified, and by the way, I will stand behind anything that's justified. Let me finish, Derek. Derek, let me finish. Derek, let me finish, please. Let me finish. I will stand behind something that's justified and transparent and is accountable to solve the problems. So if you go down a path of good governance practices like that, you will have more people stand behind you because you won't hear this resistance going on right here. Hold on, just let me finish the question. No, Derek, you have not let me talk.
Derek, let her finish, please.
I want to know how much she thinks we really need.
Let her finish.
Is 12 million enough? Answer that, please. Is 12 million enough, really, to run this city?
So I'm going to finish answering the prior question. You can talk over me later. What we need.
I don't want to answer that because the truth is it costs more than That's the truth. That is the truth.
Derek, I'll answer your question in a moment, but I'm going to finish the prior question. Thank you. So what we really need, the solution is, and you can start on it when you leave the meeting, and you said you have it already ready on some kind of code there, take your spending plan, codify it, start working on it, and justify it, codify it, and show people how not only are you going to deliver a transparent project, a plan that will deliver these solutions, but provide accountability into it. It doesn't matter what council says about the June tax. Not a penny is directed towards fixing our financial insecurity caused by pensions that has crowded out our capital costs. So we need a solution that does both, and it needs to be codified and directed. Whether you're on council or somebody else after you, this is 11-year tax. You can start writing that. It can be ready for November. And even if you felt that was not enough time, you can get it in for March and even next June and still get it on the tax rolls on the same date it would be if it passed in November. There's plenty of time here. If you do the right thing, you're going to have people behind you. And this division will not be happening. This division is because people don't feel like they're being heard, and they've fallen for it before. How many times have we fallen for it? I spent a whole year on the pension committee, only to see the results tossed out the door unceremoniously with no explanation. We would not be in so much debt today had that happened. And so people want to see another reaction. It's called trust but verify. We cannot sign a contract, which is a tax, without knowing what's in it, without knowing it's going to fix our problems. So anything that you commit to right now about June's tax is not binding. It's a campaign speech, and people need more than that.
And how much do you think it costs around the city? Is 12 or 16 the real number?
12.
Okay, I disagree. And
I know you do.
It's a big problem.
No,
It's a really big problem.
because nobody's done their due diligence. Go ahead. There's no transparency.
Derek, I want to say, it might be 18.
It might be.
18. It might
I've
be.
seen a model that shows
But
it's 18.
what I'm gathering from everybody, from George saying that everybody,
I just talked to my new friend.
switch it up there. But what George is saying is that everybody wants good things to happen. We appreciate how magnificent this city is. I don't know your name, but I just was so on board with you because it's all about trust. And if, Derek, if what Desiree has brought up and suggested, if everybody in this room sees that that is being spent well and that's going well, what's to say that that doesn't do a tremendous amount to bring back the trust in our government, spending our money? And I don't remember who it was that was saying, I think it was you, that was saying there's a lot of people who are, who are in their 80s. We have a great community in their 80s and 90s. They've been paying for a long, long time. I would think it would be devastating for some of them to have to come up with that kind of money. I'm relatively.
We do have an older community and fixed incomes. And if you look at the income disparity across the city, it's actually quite high. So a lot of times people say, well, everybody's affluent. Well, that doesn't mean they're not cash poor. That means they have appreciation in their house, but they don't have access to that necessarily. Or the
taxes
so
lowered by Prop 13, so they bought their house for $60,000. It's now worth $3 million.
But the argument, it goes back to, is it justified?
They sell it.
Exactly.
They have to move.
What if they have
What if you want to live there?
But let's go back to the two fundamental things. Okay, does anybody else have any other questions? Thank you, Camille, very much. Any other questions? Golf club? Okay, so in conclusion, what I'm really hearing, and I agree with it, is residents are asking the city council, give me the justification and that this is necessary, give me the breakout, and codify the responsibility that will be spent to fix those problems. Blake?
So you said something earlier on that council already promised us that another tax will follow.
Yes.
Tax.
Yeah.
Was that before or after we knew that the citizen-initiated tax was going to be 60?
After, and there's a video.
I thought it was at
Michael
Town
Kemp
Hall.
said it,
It
and
was
I
at
don't
that
know.
meeting.
I have no idea why he said it. He blurted it out. He's like, I think we're probably going to need some sort of infrastructure tax, and I truly think he was just speaking out of.
But we can't make excuses and speak for council people that are not here, right? He did say that. He did say that, and we've got to know more about that. So that's a good question, but it was after.
I will say there are models that show that we need more than 16. I mean, Dave McGowan at one point, who's another council member, and was a CPA and very accomplished financial forensic accountant and things like that. Dave McGowan, when I came on council, told me, well, I think it's 20 million. And he had various reasons for believing it's 20 million, and it has to do partially, I think, with reserve fund calculations and ideal ratios of how much capital you need to really maintain your assets and all those kinds of calculations that frankly are above my head. But the point, I think, is there are very intelligent, sober voices that credibly could probably put together a model that showed we need 20.
And there are very credible, sober voices that can show something different. What the people are saying is, show me your shit before I give you my money. I mean, it's really that clear. They want to know why you're hesitant to bind yourself to how the spending goes and why you don't show a spending plan. So the rest doesn't mean anything if you continue to be hesitant to that. They don't understand the rationale. And when people say, I'm hesitant to test or to trust, and you still say a rationale why you don't want to show it, it doesn't make it better. They want you, they're not being heard.
I really think part of the disconnect here is because the people asking for accountability, I understand it. I mean, look, we've all seen.
But you're not hearing them and not responding to them. You're giving them stories, Derek.
California, it's all miserable. It's terrible. I mean, this gentleman here said he works for government. He's obviously correct.
But you're not responding to what they're asking for.
It's part of the problem, and this is one of the realities that I've seen in my year on the council. There's a certain rubber flex that you have to have when you're dealing with the kinds of situations that we have. We just had, for example, a tree fall, hit a home. I'm not really supposed to even talk about this, but I'll say this. We had a city tree fall, hit a home, crack it open so you could see daylight.
But Derek, there's lots of stories. We need you guys to manage it differently.
Here's my point. What I have learned is when you're dealing with the kinds of infrastructure problems that we have, including our trees, I'll call them a sort of infrastructure.
The fact you don't put a tarp over the leaking in the garage.
We don't know. We can't project with the level of specificity that you are going for.
You don't know the level of specificity I'm going for. I'm saying let's have an allocation that splits it between the two. That's not a level that you've seen.
Tie the city council 10 or 11 years from now to exactly how much we're going to.
The residents have a right to know how you're going to spend their money. All right, so I think we're just repeating ourselves, but let me end with this. I don't think you're hearing what they're asking for, and I think the hesitancy doesn't make it better. Okay, well, thank you very much.
And again, there might be some way to get to that.
Thank you, everybody, for coming, and I hope you enjoyed it, and at least it opens a discussion and something to think about.
Younger people can afford to live here, and business can afford to live here.